Welcome to Dubai Real Estate Unplugged, brought to you by the team here at House Real Estate. I'm Luke Remington, Managing Director for the House Group, and today I'm joined by James Perry once again. Hi, James.
Hi, how are you?
Very well. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
Simon Baker's back with us again.
Back in the house. Welcome. Yeah, welcome everyone.
Nice to see you again, gentlemen. Happy New Year. We're in a new office. So today I want to dive into, let's start with a roundup of 2022. What happened? It was a big year for us. It was a big year for the Dubai property market. So I'm sure we can tick off a few minutes on that. So roundup of 2022, our achievements. It's been big, James. I heard you go, we had the monthly meeting start this week, and there was quite a few announcements that you had. But what have you seen in the growth in 2022? How have you felt personally as well as the business?
Yeah, I mean, it's not just 2022. I think, the big milestone for me was COVID, actually. I think from COVID times and from those difficult period that we had, I think as a business, we've really moved on since there. Whereas I think a lot of companies in Dubai maybe took the foot off the gas a little bit. But what we...
Just jumping in there, you actually sent me something really interesting on WhatsApp, and I don't mind you sharing it, but you actually said to me, can you remember you were going to remortgage your house? I don't know when that would have been, probably around 2018 or 2019.
That was the start of COVID, wasn't it? So
Yeah.
it's probably early 2019, March, April time. But yeah, I mean, we were having conversations where, there's a lot of uncertainty. Dubai was in a lockdown. We were talking about, if we had to, would we remortgage our houses to free up a little bit of cash to put back into the business? Now, that lockdown period was relatively short, but it was really the unknown. It ended up being about 30 days, I think. And luckily since then, things have picked up in Dubai. I think it was very well managed. But as a business, we had very clear expectations on what we saw as the next 4 to 5 years. And we just really kicked on with our plan. There was a few small changes in terms of we were going to open an office in another location, which would have only benefited one of the teams. We actually changed that to open a larger office in our key hub, which is the Golden Diamond Park. And just doing that actually benefited the team overall. Since then, we'll come on to it later, but we've actually opened another office, as you mentioned earlier, which we're sat in today. So, we've had massive growth over the last couple of years across all the departments. And I think, we can truly say that we're one of the dominant companies in Dubai. And I believe that most of our competitors and clients would probably say the same things about us. So yeah, it's not been easy, but I think we've had a vision, and I think we've kicked on with that vision. And, luckily we've managed to ride it very well.
Yeah, I know, Simon, we touched on the marketing and, when the COVID time happened, cut back and, the salary situation and all that. How do we stay afloat? But I think I vividly remember you were kind of, let's move forward, let's double our spend on marketing, which was kind
So
of
I'm sure I always got fingers pointed at before. I think, the start of 2020, I remember turning the new year when it's always, new year, don't you? And everyone talks a big game for 24 hours or so. And then obviously COVID kicked in, didn't it, really early in 2020. And took the wind out of everyone's sails. And I personally feel that, a bit like what James was saying, that during those few months when I thought it was a bit longer than the month, but maybe I've got a short memory. I thought it was about 45 or 60 days, but whatever the time period, during that time, you were actually almost refreshingly given an opportunity to be stuck at home and start thinking, well, what do we need to work on the business rather than always in the business? I think we've always been obviously very involved, and we still are today. But it's quite important to take time away from it to understand what you need to do on it. Does that make sense? So that is certainly in my head. And I think coming out of it, it was two options, wasn't it? We could either be scared and worried about the future, or we could, double down and rent that new office, which was so pivotal, as James mentioned, and really crack on from there. Yeah. So that was what we did, and we were, I think, feel quite fortunate that the market went in the right direction, so that the end of 2020 did start picking up, and then by 2021 things were good. And as a business, we've been very fortunate to grow about just under 40%, but around that figure, 40% year on year, and that's despite COVID or any of these other challenges we've had. So, which is exciting, and how we're sat here today in this beautiful new office, which we're very very lucky to have.
Are you a bit surprised, James, about how quickly we came out of it. And I know we had a plan. And I suppose as the three of us, we like to have a plan and we need this vision. And I suppose the Shake CEO book has that vision, which we've all read. But are you a bit surprised about how well it has gone?
I think, no, I'm not.
Okay.
Is the straight answer. The reason being is, again, the government here just looks after the Emirates so well. I think there's always something going on in Dubai. Obviously, we've just had the FIFA World Cup.
Yeah.
There's always new rules, regulations coming in, but they're always favourable to the people that want to make a home here. I was having quite an interesting conversation with somebody the other day, and he was asking me how long I've been in Dubai, and it's actually since 2010. He's been here a similar time, and he was saying, back when he was young, he was going out all the time. His life's changed. He's now got a family here. And actually what he was saying was there's a lot of people that their mum and dads are maybe retired, but they're actually coming out to Dubai to live with their family and they're building out this family network in Dubai. And seeing it as a place to live and a place to retire, which maybe in 2010 there was a lot less people doing that.
Yeah, I think the Western media kind of wave their wand and kind of probably scare a lot of people off, and that just seems to have diminished over the last couple of years, doesn't it? You've just got so many more people now. Probably with the visas and the change, very easy to move over here, very easy to buy. I'm looking to buy a property in the UK at the moment, and you realise Dubai is relatively cheap. Or extremely cheap compared to London. So interestingly, last year, I think we did about just over 1,250 sales. We did over 1,100 sales, 1,250 leases. I don't know the employee count today, but I think we're somewhere in the region of 275. Big change in certain departments like marketing. I think that's now 20 strong. We brought on Claire George, who was a great find. She now heads up the marketing department, previous vice president at IBM, I believe. Numerous graphic designers, social copywriters, SEO specialists, videographers, and millions, I would have thought, spent on outdoor advertising, which is what our brokers need in order to get leads, and it's what our clients want to hear because they want us to get an outreach for their properties so they can get the most amount of money. What did you think about the recruitment, James? You spearhead that. How was that?
Yeah, I've got a lot of help with it these days, but we actually had 142 newcomers across all the service lines last year, which is a pretty good number. Obviously, that is significant growth. So one thing that we're quite keen on is keeping this company culture that is, it seems to dominate a lot of our marketing. We're quite well known in the market, again, through our peers and competitors. They would say that, in terms of our culture, it's very good. The team that we've got here, again, it's one of the big things, which is why we retain a lot of people over the years. So we've been putting a lot of things in place to keep that culture in place. Again, we'll talk about it shortly with the new office and how we've tried to retain that culture in this office and how we will do through 2023. We've now split out the training. So we've got an independent leasing trainer called VJ Cleaner, who's always done our training alongside myself. She's now just doing the sales side. So again, there's certain things in place that we hope will not just maintain the status quo, will actually increase our levels for training, support, culture through 2023 and beyond.
And I can imagine it's probably quite a hot question. If you're looking to come and join a real estate company, how many times do you get asked about the training?
All the time.
It's going to be, right? You're going to be so interested to know, I'm going to a good company, but they're going to train me well.
Yeah. I think historically people are sort of thrown in, weren't they, on day one? I know when I first started all the way back in end of 2005, there was absolutely zero training or zero support. But even today, I think there's a lot of companies, aren't there, that show you to your desk and say, well, there's a telephone, good luck.
We see it, Simon, don't we? We get people that join the company. Okay, what? Just out of interest, why are you here? What's it? Tell us a bit about your journey.
Yeah.
Oh, I joined a company and I just got nothing.
Yeah. Actually, I was speaking to one of our new starters just before Christmas, I think it was, and he actually joined this company because he said in the old company that he was working at, a real estate company in Dubai, I won't name names, the managing director walked past him every single morning and never spoke to him. He said he only spoke to the senior guys in the company that were actually billing. And he just said it was a breath of fresh air, that us guys were quite,
I probably didn't mention my name then.
No, James, you're very, very good at that, and I think I'd like to be better for sure. I do think we're all quite approachable. We're all sat there every day, and people say to me, "Oh, why'd you sit here?" And I was like, "Well, why not? I'm sat with everyone." So yeah, I think we're all quite approachable and very normal human beings. I'd like to think so.
So that leads me perfectly on to actually the new office. And it's the first time in 10 years that we actually have our own office, which is different, James, because we've never had an office. And we don't tend to use this new office that we've now done for ourselves. But why did we not ever have an office?
I think, again, it's just about culture, isn't it? This is what I would say to any new starter or anyone that I'm speaking to on an interview. If you walked into our company today, you wouldn't actually know that the three of us are directors. It's quite a flat hierarchy. As Simon's just mentioned, he's sat with the off-plan team. Luke normally sits in another office. I'm normally sat with the Palm Jumeirah team, or I am certainly currently. So you just wouldn't know that we're directors. I think we've probably realised that there's certain situations where you do need a bit of quiet space. So whether that's doing an interview or doing a review, these kind of things. But ultimately, again, we're just on the sales floor day to day.
Yeah, no, and I think that's one of the big reasons that, we have gone so well. Of course, we've had the vision, but we have been down to earth, and we've been out there, and we can hold the hands, and we can do what we need to do in order to have success. Simon, go on to the new office. Tell me about it. You did it.
Okay, so yeah, the new office was a very exciting addition to the House Real Estate in Golden Diamond Park. We started with one office on the ground floor, which is a big retail unit, it's 8,000 square foot.
What does that take us to in total now? 3 offices?
The three of them together.
Plus upstairs?
About 22,000, I think, is the total square foot. So we've got a reasonable amount of space for everybody, which is obviously we need now. We've got all these different departments, different companies within House and House Group, and everything's growing, which is great. So the second one was the off-plan office that opened almost exactly a year ago in September last year. September the year before now. And then this new office, which we managed to get the fit out done in a fairly timely manner, opened on the 2nd of January. Another 8,600 square foot, designed as a sort of main office. So it's the center hub, if you like, for what's now the sales office on one end, leasing office on the other end. And this is off plan and marketing, and designed really to bring, in a big part to maintain culture for everybody within the company, to have a central hub. We've got our own coffee shop, which is being run by Encounter. And having a huge staff room, so lots of space for people to come and sit and carry on working together, and have lunch and have a chat. So I think that's really important.
We've mentioned culture quite a few times. Is that a really important part of House and House?
Massive. Interestingly, I was speaking to Tom, who heads our leasing team, and I was asking him how it's felt in the first couple of weeks of 2023. Obviously going into a completely separate office. He used to be based with Charlie and the sales team, and actually he felt that the culture was better in the new office being independent, which I thought was quite interesting. He just said it felt more collective as a team. So yeah, it's going back to your question, it's definitely important to us. Why? Because it helps retain people. I think if people are happy to come into work, they're going to do good things when they meet clients. I think it means that we can build a team. And what I mean by that is we're not constantly losing people, having to retrain people. Year on year, we've just got the same names and faces coming back into the company. And of course, those years of experience just add up to a cumulative effect of the whole team performing year on year.
Agree. So the addition to bring in Encounter, which is part of the Tom and Serge group, I believe, Simon.
Yeah,
that coffee
correct.
shop. This office feels like it has a lot more space to it and a lot more sociability, and it's a bit Apple-esque, isn't it? Or
definitely. I think someone said it looks a bit like a nice new Miras office to me the other day. So it looks fantastic. We've the guys at LXA have done a great job for us, which is so it's fantastic space, and a bit like you said, a bit more open spaces, a few more sort of co-working spaces that people can come and work, collaboratively together without feeling that they're just stuck at their desk, I guess. So that's probably a big part of it. Co-working
space, yes, James. Flexible time. What's your opinion on that, actually? Because I know we do talk about it sometimes. Is it work? Does it not work? Does it work for real estate? Does it work for House and House?
I think time will tell. This is the first space where, like Simon said, it's probably a little bit freer from a work perspective. I think ultimately it depends how motivated somebody is. The reality is, could I work from home the same as I work in the office? Yeah, I believe so. But would it work for everybody? No. So I think there's certain teams and I think there's certain people in the company that maybe get a little bit more flexibility now. I don't think it works for everyone. I also believe that when someone's new to the company or a new starter, they should be embedding themselves in the company culture to understand sales rules, processes, our training, our ethics, again, culture. But I think if someone's performing year on year, they've been with the company 8 or 9 years, a little bit older maybe, then yeah, they might get a slightly freer reign.
It's quite interesting because the ones that you refer to that probably are the kind of the top 10, if you went out to each of them and asked them, would they like to be more flexible? Would they like to work from home? What is the answer usually?
I think the majority of them are in the office because they like the office environment.
Cathal, for instance.
Yeah, 100%.
He's first in and one of the last to leave, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Top biller, consistency.
Yeah. Again, people like the vibe. It's not an office that's stayed. People don't like coming in. I've probably said this before on podcasts, but I hear so many times, whether it's from, people coming in for interviews, clients, competitors. When you walk through the door, it sounds a little bit cheesy, but it's true. There is a nice vibe. People are smiling, people are smartly dressed. The receptionists are amazing. They're super, nice to people that are walking through the door. There's always people milling about on the headsets and the phones. You can see that we're a busy office, but there is a nice vibe to it. People are talking. They're not just segmented in the office, and there's not one nationality over here and one nationality over the other side. They're actually, it is collaborative. People get on. There's good banter in the office. But it is professional, people are here to work. Is there anything on your mind going into 2023 that we're going into, I hate the word record because I think it's been mentioned so many times, and what your record and prediction, what is your record, what's your prediction? What would you like to change going into 2023 about House & House? Is there anything that you've got your eye on and you're like, okay, if I can make this change in the next 6 to 12 months, it's going to make a fundamental difference within the business? Simon as well, Yeah, I mean, you talked earlier about myself being quite heavily involved in recruitment. So for those people that don't know, I usually do the second stage interviews. We've got a couple of recruiters now, Sharice and Aurelia, who are doing the first stage. So I guess what I've seen when we've opened new offices in the past is as you dilute the team to separate them into different offices, there is there's a small period where maybe it isn't as loud and as buzzy as it's previously been 2 months ago when you were all operating from one place. So I guess for me, the next 6 to 12 months is we've got 65 spaces available within the business as seats.
That would take us to a head count of in excess of 325 then?
In terms of total staff numbers, yeah, and over 200 brokers, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so, I mean, my main priority is to essentially get people into the company, keep that office vibe that we've always been quite proud of, and, yeah, just get everyone producing results quite quickly. One interesting thing, I was speaking to Sharice a little bit earlier today, and she was saying that in terms of tracking our new starters, as a business last year, 98% of new starters did a deal within month 2. So it's not like you're having to wait, I said that slightly wrong, not in month 2, before month 2, so month 2 or prior. So, that's quite interesting because I was speaking to someone the other day from Germany and they were saying that they have to do 6 months training before they can actually get essentially on the sales floor. Whereas here, we're pretty confident now that we can take a new starter and by the average person, I mean someone that hasn't been to Dubai before or worked in a estate agency or real estate, and we can get them earning relatively quickly. As most people know that will be listening to this podcast, it is a commission-only environment here, so it's quite important that we show people that actually they can come to a completely different place. they can enter a completely different industry sometimes, and we can actually show them the path so that they can get success quite quickly. So they're not using their own funds, and that just gives them the confidence and reassurance that actually they've made the right decision to move to Dubai.
Recruitment and training, by the sounds of it, then for 2023.
Exactly.
Simon?
Yeah, I don't think there's huge things we need to change. I think, as James mentioned, we've moved to a new office, and it does change the dynamic slightly. So that's important to manage from a from a cultural point of view within the teams. I think there's a lot we can do in terms of solidifying our place as one of the top sort of 3 or 4 brokers in Dubai. We want to continue to improve, and we want to. We laid out a growth plan, which I think it was just good to communicate with the company that there are lots of opportunities for growth. Some people might look at a large real estate company in Dubai and think, okay, well, there's the owners, and there's the sales director, and there's the leasing director. But the opportunity to, for anybody to be able to join the business, whether it's in sales or leasing, and work their way up. Become a senior broker, and then the next step, to become a sales manager, and ultimately to build a team. So I think the opportunities are very exciting. The fact that there are opportunities for growth for any new joiner. Anyone joining in 2023, in 2 or 3 years' time, they could well be the next sales manager, possibly even the sales or leasing director. So there's a lot of opportunities for growth from that perspective, and I think that's really important. I think there are a lot of companies where you get this sort of us versus you mentality, or you versus us, I should say. And I think we've always been good at being the opposite of that, and I think that provides opportunity for career progression, really.
Yeah, everyone's interested in it for sure. And I think, certainly when I'd been at a company for, 5 or so years, you're always thinking, what's the next step? What's the next step? I spoke to someone yesterday and asked, why have you left your old job? Because there was no progression.
Funnily enough, one of the brokers this morning was asking me about how I felt about the new office. We had a discussion on that, and his next question was, what's the next step? And I was like, well, we need to still sort out the office first, so give us 5 minutes, But that's the mentality. And there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. That's ambition and that's aspiration. But it just shows you what people do think in Dubai, and especially in real estate, where it's so fast-paced. I think as business leaders and directors, you have to be always on the pulse, and you have to be quite nimble on your feet to be ahead of the game, be ahead of the market for sure.
You shared that slide with the team on Monday. Just how many was it? I think it was something like, was there 20 sales managers that we're looking at?
Roughly, yeah.
Okay. Sales directors?
3.
Okay. Leasing.
Operations director, managing director. So essentially to take one of our spots, maybe all of our spots, who knows, in 4 or 5, 10 years.
Yeah. I think the exciting thing is the growth structure that we came out with was we've only filled around 30 to 35% of the positions. So there were actually 30 sales team members, not trying to correct anyone, but we've currently got 8. So there's, space for 22 more sales team managers. There's just huge potential growth. And even from there'll be new areas built within Dubai in the next 3 or 4 years. So that would probably be extended further. So for anyone new or looking to join the business today, there are huge opportunities for growth. Depending on if that person has the motivation and the desire to want to do that. I think when we touched earlier on the hot desking, for some people, if maybe they've got children, as James said, they might be a bit older, they might be in a position where, their 5-year plan would be to be able to work from home a bit and do their own thing, and effectively a bit more like a self-employed role. Whereas the other, someone with a lot of ambition might want to be running a team of 10 or 20 people in the future. So I feel we're providing both options for that, which is important.
Really interesting, and I think we could probably delve into so many points of that discussion and elaborate on all of them, but that's all we have time for today. So thank you to our listeners. We look forward to sharing with you more of our podcasts in the coming months, so please let us know if there are any topics you'd like us to discuss. Don't forget to subscribe, whatever channel you're listening on, so you're notified when new episodes drop. You can follow us at House & House on Instagram, Facebook and LinkedIn. We also release a new monthly newsletter with all our latest updates and insights. We include all the links in the show notes. Thanks very much. Talk soon.
Real Estate Unplugged. Finding this information helpful? Share this episode with friends and family to help them in their property journey. To know more about us or to contact our property specialists, visit houseandhouse.com.